right, here we go. Drone video of the 8.679 acres near the Niagara River and Bennett Springs State Park with the little cabin, with the large shop, with the pond. And let's have a look. There's the pond right there. You can see an old dock that someone had built, and it actually floats really well, but it does need new decking on it. And spinning around, we're looking at the cabin. It was really overcast when we were out there. We were hoping for a sunny day, and instead we had a rainy morning, so everything was wet, and then it was overcast. So we didn't capture the vibrantness of this too well, but we're still going to have a pretty good look at this property. The cabin was built as a hunting cabin for this property when it was all one kind of large tract. I believe there was about 500 acres total, and that was used as a family hunting cabin for many decades. It had been leased out now for the last couple years, and it's available for sale, so that's why we're doing the videos here. That was a storage shed and was kind of converted apparently into like a chicken coop. We peeked inside a little bit. There's the big shop. We had slid the door open for the video. There's the propane tank. In the back you can see the well house. There is a drilled well that serves the house. And then the house is essentially two rooms. It's that large room that you see there, and then the other smaller room, which is kind of the kitchen area. The roof actually doesn't appear to leak, but it does have that moss growing on it, especially on that side we just saw, which faces north. Going up in the air, this is a heavily wooded property. You'll see all different types of trees, from hardwoods to pine to walnut trees and just everything in between. There's a pond, big beautiful pond on the property that you can see obviously. There's a pond on the adjoining property. You can see a little bit of that. And in about a minute here, we're going to quickly cut into the interactive map, and we've got that within this video. We spend just a couple minutes looking at it, kind of showing you the topography, and that should hopefully make this video that you're watching make a little more sense. Once we get up in the air and start to look around, you'll probably have your bearings a little more after we look at that interactive map in just a minute here. Now we're looking south. That's the easement road that goes to the county road, which was just off the picture there. So good access to this property. Now we're going to orient and look northerly. The bulk of the property of the acreage actually sits north of the cabin and the pond and the yard. And it stays level for a while, then it slopes down into a valley, and then it actually levels out on the other side of the valley. And that's what we'll look at on the interactive map in just about 15 seconds here. So looking northerly, directly over the property, you can see that valley, and we'll see that on the topo map in just a second. And here we go. So here's a very short screen recording that we're going to insert into the drone video, I believe, just because it's a long drone video and we want to give you some kind of idea of what you're looking at. So here's the cabin and the shop right here. Here's down at the bottom of this screen is Industry Road. That's the county road. Take the easement road just a little ways, get to the property, down the hill, and then you've got the big pond here, and then of course the cabin and the shop. So we take off. Let's put this on a Google map really quickly. It should be a little more clear. Well, it's a lot more clear. Okay. So in the drone video that you're probably watching right now, we're parked right down here. The cabin's actually within these trees. You can't really see it because it's tucked in there so well. Here's the big shop. The well house would be here. This was an RV that's not on the property anymore. There's also one that you'll see on the south side. That's not on the property either. But anyway, we launched the drone from right about here. We look at the pond, we look at the cabin, we go way up in the air, and we look to the south to see the Niagara River. And actually, I believe we even see Bennett Springs State Park. I'm going to get this situated here. We'll back out a bit. Okay, those words are a pain, but you can see about where the property is. As we look to the south with the drone way up in the air, this thick blue line, that's the actual Niagara River. The shaded area is Bennett Springs State Park. So I mean, it's within just about 2 miles of the property. The river is less than a mile, actually, as the crow flies. And when we zoom in, I believe we zoom in basically on this area, because you can see a bunch of kind of RV spots and whatnot. There's a little RV area right down by the river, but that's Bennett Springs. The trout hatchery is over here. So extremely close to the Niagara River. And as we kind of turn and look at the area, there's shaded areas up here as well by the Niagara River. That's the Barclay Conservation Area. That's a small conservation area. That's one as well. But that's basically to give you an overview of the area. But then I wanted to also zoom in on the property and do a topo map as an overlay, because that's one of the most interesting things about this property that we didn't even know until we did this this recent visit with the drone video. Okay, so you can see the property is essentially all wooded, other than some areas that are open by the little cabin and the shop and whatnot. But we're going to do a topo map overlay on this, and the lines should pop up in just a minute. There we go. It can be a little tricky to make sense of this, especially if you're not familiar with topo maps. So just for a minute, I'll switch to the full topo. Whoops, and now I've got to turn the overlay off. Okay, there we go. So what the full topo is showing us, the same as the overlay. On topo maps, when the lines are spaced far apart, the property is much more level. When they're closer, it's got more of a slope to it. So here on the south end, and then going to the cabin, and then going beyond the cabin toward about the middle of the property, it's either level or has a gentle slope. We know where you come in on the south, that's actually the highest, and then you go down the little driveway, it levels out, and then you've got a large, basically level area, more or less, around the cabin and shop. And then as you go north from there, it appears to slope down into basically a valley. But as we were looking at the drone video, and then we compared it with the topo maps, if you look at this, there's more or less a place where, and we haven't explored it on foot, but it looks like you could come through here along the west side, and then you've got a large level area toward the northwest side of the property, which is very interesting. So that gives you the possibility to perhaps have an additional private site on the property, which is really cool. Just something where you kind of get away from any neighbors, which is pretty neat. So as we go up in the air with the drone, as we look north, you'll be able to see the valley. We'll cross over that and then be on the lookout for the large level area on the other side. You might see in the drone video that there's a neighbor on the east, and he's got some stuff fairly close to the property line. We didn't go and measure or anything like that, but that's what made this area kind of interesting, is that if you wanted something super private, you could potentially do a trail back here to the west, I should say the northwest side of the property, and there appears to be a large level area right there. This thick contour line, by the way, doesn't have any special significance other than every fifth line is a thicker line or a darkened line. The elevation change on this map is about a 20-foot elevation change between any two topo lines. So between every 5 lines is a 100-foot change, and so every fifth line is a darkened line, and then that just makes it easier if you're zoomed out a bit to note a total elevation change of 100 feet. So like on this property, there's a darkened line right here, just about, and then the next one's up here. So from this darkened line to this one, that's about a 100-foot elevation change. So that's a good valley right there. I believe it's around 1,100 feet above sea level. See if we can see any markings. There we go. So this particular contour line is 1,100 feet above sea level. So the property at its highest is the south end at 1120, 40, 60, about 1,160 feet above sea level. It's the lowest at the very base of this valley, where the valley exits the property, and that's about 1,000 feet above sea level. But now that we've done that, let's quickly, hopefully, we'll go back to the Google map, and now we'll put the contour lines on and see if they make a little more sense. It seems to. So we've got the drone taking off down here by the cabin and the shop and the pond. An adjoining property has a similar pond, actually, which is pretty cool. But this large pond is right on the property, according to this map. We take off, we fly around, and we do fly over the north part of the property. So be on the lookout for that. You can see here with the topo map where the valley is, and you can basically see that on the ground as well. And then it looks like we can see the large level area on the northwest side. So pretty interesting, and hopefully with the drone video we can, maybe get a better look at that. But there you have it. Sorry to cut into the drone video. Back to the fun. Okay, and back to the drone video. So look just straight at the bottom of the screen there, and that's the valley that we were just talking about on the topo map. So pretty good valley. And then as you go over that, you can see where it levels out again. So that's great to see, especially on the drone video here. Looking way off in the distance, you have some huge valleys. But this kind of mini valley right here is kind of interesting. We have not explored it, but there's a good chance you'll find, maybe a live spring. I mean, who knows in a valley like that. This area, we've located many springs within different valleys. In this particular area of the Ozarks, we've had several projects out here, and now we're flying over essentially the northern part of the property, looking to the north. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous area. So now we're probably about directly over the northern tip of the property. We're just checking out the view to the north and looking down. So that's probably about the northwest corner of the property, where we saw on the map that it was level. And again, we haven't been out there on foot to really verify that, but the topo map makes it pretty clear that northwest part of the property is level. It's looking to the west, and now panning to the south, I believe. And if we get a little higher, we'll be able to see that cabin again. There, well, you can see the shop. So the cabin sits just to the right of that. The Niagara River is actually only about a mile to the southwest of the property. Bennett Springs State Park about 2 miles to the southwest. Here's a pretty good shot. As we look southerly, you can see the shop, you can see the pond. You can see that white truck just a little bit. Off to the left, you've got the neighboring property. Off further to the left, you've got the, it's called Mauka Drive, M-A-U-K-A. That's the main easement road at Whitetail Ridge. And then looking off in the distance, you can see some beautiful open meadows. And off to the right is the Niagara River. If we had taken the drone video just about an hour earlier, we would have seen a clear outline of the river because of the low fog and mist that tends to follow over the rivers on certain mornings. You can see a little bit of it, and I think when we zoom in you'll see more of it, but we had missed kind of the prime hour of seeing that really cool mist that follows the rivers. It's generally just on certain mornings fairly early in the morning. So there's the shop. The shop does have, as we mentioned, a sliding door. We slid it open when we were taking the videos. So this is something that could certainly be utilized for a hunting cabin. If you wanted to make it your permanent residence, odds are you'd want to spend some time and money and go in and improve it a bit. Now we're zooming in. There's the Niagara River. To the left, you can see a couple commercial enterprises that are basically adjacent to Bennett Springs State Park. So Bennett Springs State Park, I think, is just on the other side of the river. And Bennett Springs State Park is where they have the large trout hatchery, and they actually stock this particular section of the Niagara River with rainbow trout and brown trout. It's one of the very few white ribbon trout fishing areas in Missouri, and in the nation for that matter. So you can see some of the fog or mist effect above the river off in the distance. You've got people that come from all over to trout fish, and then you've got a huge amount of people who couldn't care less about the trout fishing, and they come to float the river in canoes and kayaks. Zooming in again, it had rained the day before and this morning when this video was taken, so the river, which is normally quite clear, was a little bit churned up from all that recent rain. And off to the right, you can see some of that mist and fog over the river, and just on the other side of the river, from where we're looking now, is the Bark Lake Conservation Area, which is several hundred acres of public land with some great river access and a beautiful sandy beach. I mean, you've got a lot of river access points, including Bennett Springs State Park. And in addition to the rainbow trout and the brown trout, it has all the other fish you would expect to see in a major river in Missouri. So you'll have your catfish, your bass, crappie, I'm sure. And facing southerly, looking down at the property, really easy to see that shop because that's light colored and it's not covered by trees. The cabin is covered by those trees, so it's tough to see. Great location west of Lebanon, Missouri, which is probably the largest regional town, and only about an hour from Springfield, which is quite a bit bigger than Lebanon. Springfield's the largest city in southern Missouri by far. And we're looking in now, and that's Industry Road, that's the county road. It's kind of covered by trees, but you can see it a little bit. And then the easement road comes off that and goes south. There's the easement road, and goes south to the actual property, and then it ends on the property. So it's a dead end road. It doesn't go through the property. There's no through traffic at this property. I don't think we've ever had something that has everything this does. And I don't know if it makes it into this video or not. Maybe not. Definitely when we look at the cabin from the ground, it does, I believe. But we had just discovered that someone was cultivating grapes out here. So by the power poles on the property, just behind the cabin, you can see the power pole actually with the transformer. They've got some wires strung up between that and another pole, and there's some fairly large mature grapevines that are being cultivated, and they've already got quite a few grapes on them. So it's a little early in the year for the grapes to be ready to eat or make into jelly or make into wine, but there were thousands of grapes on the two large vines. That's pretty neat to see. The Ozarks have a great climate for growing all types of fruit trees, and that makes them a nice place to grow grapevines. So there are quite a few small little wineries in the Ozarks. You don't really think of wineries when you think of southern Missouri, but they are definitely here. And there are a surprising number of people who cultivate their own grapes for either wine or for jellies or jams or whatnot. There, we're zooming in a little bit on those grapevines. Really unique property, extremely private. Back here, you do have a neighbor to the east and a neighbor kind of to the southwest. And in this, as we pan around, if you look on the far right, you can see some of the stuff from that neighbor to the east. But again, with this being over 8.5 acres, you shouldn't have too much of a problem finding a very private spot on it if that's what you wanted. If you want it to be totally out of touch with humankind, which is sometimes nice, then perhaps you could go to the northwest side of the property and maybe do some kind of site out there. We were told that there are fish in the pond. We've never tried to verify that. It'd be really easy to redo that dock. It was built on heavy duty, looks like 55-gallon drums, but they're the heavy duty plastic kind, so they will probably last almost forever. They seem to be in great shape, but the decking on the dock is probably 20 years old, and it just is in really bad shape. So it does need some new decking. It basically looked like they just used deck boards. So you could do that, or you could do 2x6s, or you could do the composite deck boards, and it would last much, much longer. And now we're taking a look at that valley on the property. That would be fun to walk down and explore that. On a valley like this, especially in this area, you're just almost guaranteed to find some neat surprises. In fact, when this video was taken, there probably was some amount of water in the base of that valley. There's some kind of wet weather stream or creek, one would think, in a valley like that. But there also could be one or more small springs in the hillside, or even a cave. I mean, this area is known for caves, and that kind of topography with that valley is exactly where we would start looking for a cave if we were going to go out and search for one. That particular valley would be on the top of our list. So we might be going down to take a look at the yard, I'm not sure. You can see this does need some cleanup. Just to the left of the truck, there's some kind of burn pile. Again, this was leased out for a couple years. The cabin could really benefit from being spruced up on the inside. The setup is kind of interesting. You walk into one of the two main rooms, and you've got a kitchen area off to the right, so a sink and a stove, and then off to the left is fairly open. And before it was leased out, that was set up kind of as an all-purpose room. So they had kitchen, dining area with a small dining table and a small bed in there as well. And then the larger room in the back was more or less for storage. But the larger room in the back is also where you'll find the shower and where you'll find the toilet. Now there are the grapevines right there. I don't know if we zoom in on those. I hope we do. There's the shed. It's a nice shop or shed or what have you. There's a gigantic pine tree. There's some beautiful timber on this property. I don't know if we have the dimensions on the little house or not. We'll have to check on that. I'm sure some people will want to know that, and if we have it, we'll put it in the listing page. Here we're going to zoom in on the grapes. Something so cool about having actual grapevines on your property. There you go. So they're just a few weeks away from being ready to eat, or become wine, or become jelly, or who knows, but they are looking healthy. That's awesome. So right in that area, we found that at least two mature grapevines. There could be more out there, because we didn't even know that those grapevines existed. I don't think we go inside this shop with the drone video, but I'm sure we do with the ground video. Very usable shop. Just a pretty setting. I mean, this is so nice down here to have that pond, to have the big timber, sycamore trees. We saw several gigantic sycamore trees, which are gorgeous trees. red oak, white oak, hickory, black walnut. One of the guys said some persimmon trees out here, which the deer love. By the way, the deer and the wild turkey just love this area. And with a pond on your property, you're going to get more deer and turkey traffic than most people do. Now we're getting close to the end here. We've got about a minute left. But as always, you can go to our website. It's I don't think I've mentioned it once in this 20+ minute video, but it's InstantAcres.com. That's where you can go to check the availability on this property. This is within Whitetail Ridge. So it's a homesteader friendly development, so you're not going to have the restrictions on foundation size, that kind of stuff that you would in a standard rural development. So if that's what you're looking for, this is pretty cool. So InstantAcres.com. If you go to the homestead friendly section, click on Whitetail Ridge. I believe this is track 12. You can see if it's available or not. If it's not, then we're sorry you missed it. You can check out what else we have. Mainly we do sell raw land. This just happens to be a little cabin that we had out at Whitetail Ridge. So very nice. InstantAcres.com. Complete owner financing on everything we sell through our website. If you have any questions, just let us know.